All right, thank you for your time today. I'm going to talk a little bit today about poverty and the failure of the welfare system to address it. As you can see on the screen right now, since 1964, when President Johnston began the war on poverty, since that time we've spent over $16 trillion on welfare and welfare programs, and actually going forward we're spending over $1 trillion a year continuing with that. Because of that enormous cost, obviously, that is a huge drain to federal and state budgets, and likewise it becomes a reason for high tax rates, and that affects all of us, any taxpayers at least. As a Christian and as a father, a taxpayer, an American, and as a relative to those that have actually received welfare, I've witnessed the destruction that this can cause to people, it can cause to families, that it can cause to our country, that it has caused to our country. The welfare system has overall contributed to the breakdown of the family structure. It's actually made worse other problems, other social problems in America. And despite all this though, God's design for family and for taking care of poor can actually be restored. We can get back to where we need to be as far as where welfare has taken us. I'm going to demonstrate how welfare has helped to deteriorate the structure of the family, by doing so by rewarding the proliferation of illegitimate children, how welfare has actually worsened social problems like abortion and crime rates, and how the ill effects of welfare can be reversed by implementing new reforms and that encourage families to stay together, and that can actually assist churches and other nonprofits to take the places of what welfare has essentially taken from them in the last 50 years. Okay, let's examine some of these points in a little greater detail. As far as the deterioration of the family structure and how welfare has contributed to that, we can look at out-of-wedlock births and see that in welfare recipients it's a much higher rate. And as a matter of fact, 80% of children in homes that receive welfare are in single-parent homes. So the vast majority of welfare is going to children with one parent. And in a study by, or an analysis of studies actually by The Economist, they looked at college-aged women, they looked at the statistics of income, of out-of-wedlock birth rates, of divorce rates, and they essentially concluded that over that time period in the early 70s, shortly after the war on poverty began, that the divorce rates, the out-of-wedlock birth rates, all these things for women that were in college as opposed to those out of college, those rates were much more favorable. And they contributed all this. Their analysis concluded that the women in college that had a little bit of a life plan they were much more deferred from receiving any type of welfare benefit, and their overall analysis was that those that didn't have a distinct plan in front of them felt essentially that having a child out of wedlock was minimized, that the effects of that were minimized because they knew that the welfare system was there to support them. So their analysis was that, if that wasn't there, that since the 70s probably would have reduced some of the problems that we've seen from people that felt that there was really no serious issue with raising a child on their own. They had something to fall back on, they had something to support them. And then in order basically to confirm some of these ideas that it's a deterioration of the family structure, the 1996 welfare reform bill that was passed by Congress, 3 of the stated goals said that the intention of the welfare reform bill was to strengthen marriage, to reduce out-of-wedlock childbearing, and to encourage the formation of two-parent families. It was right in the legislation that's actually what the intent of the legislation was for. So at that time they recognized all these same problems, and up to that point, which had only been 20 or 30 years after the war on poverty, and they tried to correct that. My second point about welfare contributing to higher crime rates and abortion rates, there's actually a lengthy study from the Journal of Social Choice and Welfare, and they conclude from looking at various studies, all individual studies of different kinds, all involving welfare, They concluded that welfare actually has led to an increase in abortions since Roe v. Wade and since the war on poverty has begun. And this was not a conservative study or one that you would typically think would have that outcome, but they actually had to admit that based on subsidies and the other supplements that women get, that actually led to more abortions than it would to them keeping their children. Also, in a study from the National Bureau of Economic Research, they looked at crime rates. In this particular case, it was crime rates of women and the effects of the welfare reform bill on that, and they found that there was a direct link between a decrease in crime after the reform bill in 1996, a decrease in crime among women, and their deeper analysis basically said that it was because of the employment of those women, that they were forced to receive employment, and because of that employment, it overall reduced crime rates. My last point of the ill effects of welfare and how they can be reversed by implementing new reforms and allow families to stay together, and to encourage churches and other nonprofits to take the place that the welfare has been substituting for the last few decades. The previous illustrations concerning the welfare reform and how the stated benefits of it, of crime reduction, have shown that this type of legislation can actually work, and that it's been drifted away. Some of those things that the welfare reform bill did have been reversed recently by President Obama. Another reform bill needs to take place to reiterate all the same things that happened back then. And we can look forward, based on the previous results, of reduced illegitimate births, reduced abortions, reduced crime rates, just like we had from the first bill. Also, nonprofit organizations. There's a nonprofit organization called Compassion International, and they're actually a nonprofit that's truly focused on reducing poverty. Today they treat or sponsor over nearly 2 million children all across the world, truly impoverished children. They do it for a few dollars a month for each child all over the world. Those are the types of charities that actually help bring people out of poverty. They don't just give them food and clothing, they give them education and basic life skills, and they do it at a very, very low cost. Charities like that, local charities and churches, these are the types of institutions that should be responsible for helping people out of poverty, not government welfare systems that put people in a cycle that they just continue generation after generation. So in conclusion, the welfare system has helped to deteriorate the structure of the family in our country. It's worsened other social problems like abortion and crime, but these ill effects can be reversed if we are able to implement reforms, legal reforms, and encourage nonprofits to take the place that welfare has filled. All these needed reforms aren't going to happen on their own, and in order for them to be put into place, we almost regularly contact our state and federal congressmen and make them aware of how serious we want this and how badly we think it needs to be done, otherwise they'll never take action. And we also must not forget about the charities that actually do function well and support those in true poverty, and remember to support them. So instead of just complaining about these effects that we all know and we've all seen from welfare, that we've seen affect families and friends, we need to change all these misguided laws and all these wrong-headed ideas that have damaged our country to prevent them from damaging yet another generation. Thank you.